Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Leading with Employee Experience webinar, How to Create a Culture Rooted on Purpose and Belonging. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's really a pleasure to have you on this session. My name is Miriam Palà. For the ones who don't know me, I'm the co-founder of Thinking Luxury. At Thinking Luxury, we help premium and luxury brands achieve business growth by really making and turning customer experience into their key differentiator. And funny enough, in many cases, achieving customer experience excellence requires making employee experience the foundation of this transformation. And that's what we're here today. So I'm honored to have today on this session two of my really good friends, but also amazing professionals that they have dedicated their entire career to talent. We can see it from a corporate perspective, from an entrepreneur perspective, but they've devoted their career to developing, managing, engaging with talent and employees. So definitely the discussions, they promise to be very interesting today. First of all, I would like to introduce Xavier Martin. He is the CEO of Turijobs. Xavier, let me just quickly read you because, I could go on into their bios and everything they've done so far, but just to briefly introduce Xavier, he's a seasoned entrepreneur, passionate about transforming recruiting in hospitality, creating opportunities and culture-driven talent strategies. Xavier, welcome. How are you?
Thank you. I'm very good. Thank you for having me. It is a pleasure to be with you today.
Thank you so much. My other lovely guest is Iyas Seidan. He is the managing partner for Ember Enablement. Iyas is an expert in employee experience and culture transformation, specializing in talent management, engaging, and retention strategies. Iyas, how are you? Welcome.
I'm good. Thank you very much. I'm really happy to be here with you, Miriam and Xavier.
Welcome. Really excited for this discussion. I will quickly run through the agenda. So the key discussion topics we'll be tapping into. But also I want to remind everyone that you have the chat box, so the comment section where you can leave your questions, remarks, or perspectives, and we will address them at the end. We're going to leave 10-15 minutes for Q&A. So today we're going to be starting with where we will see customer experience in the current social and economical landscape. Then we're going to go into seeing one layer deeper why employee experience is crucial for business success. Then we will talk about, we're going to go layers and layers deeper into the employee experience. We're going to talk about strategies to attract, engage, and retain top talent. And then we're going to end up the discussion giving you some key metrics to measure not only employee, but also candidate experience, which Xavi can give us a lot of insights on the candidate side. When we talk about customer experience, I think it's worth first defining what customer experience is. But customer experience goes beyond the provision of services, goes beyond the transactional exchange of product and services. Experience encompasses the broader journey that every customer goes through when interacting with a brand. And this touches upon the customer emotions. We've seen lately a lot of companies and more companies that are just really tapping into the experience side when it comes to initiatives and strategies to engage on an emotional level with their customers. For example, Hermes Fit, as an example. So this was like a pop-up initiative from Hermes that they did pop-up gyms, Hermes style gyms in cities like New York, Singapore, Paris. We've also seen more and more beach clubs and pool clubs that they've been rebranded with luxury retail brands. Why? Because they're bringing that luxury experience into a different kind of scenario, environment. And also, not only luxury brands, but we've seen also IKEA opening a pop-up store on Oxford Street in London, where you can just walk in and personalize the very famous and iconic blue bag from IKEA that I'm sure we all have at home. You can now not only have one, but you can have your own one. You can personalize it with their initials. So these are just more and more examples of how companies in any level and in any industry or segment, they're really trying to tap into these emotional connection. And now, and Xavi is gonna share a recent experience on that. But Gen Z, when we talk about Gen Z, Gen Z are really eager and are really looking for becoming part of a community. It's a generation that are really looking to become part of a community beyond the product or service that the company is offering. So why? Gen Z demands more, tolerates less, and stays loyal only when they're connected. Now let's translate that into the workplace. Xavi shared some insightful, can share some insights on a viral post that he recently had on LinkedIn, actually about the different generations and what do they seek and value in the workplace. Gen Z, not any of the three of us, but Gen Z could be actually, generations that we have right behind us. They value authenticity, they value inclusivity, they value sustainability, and they actually build trust with brands that they show transparency. What is transparency? Transparency is just showing what's really behind the scene, like who is behind this brand, this name. They want to connect with people. They want to feel that they belong, that they're connected to something deeper than just a name or logo. And aligning your brand and your workplace culture with these expectations will be crucial for the success of any brand in the future. So I'm really excited, really curious and interested to hear what are your takes on the importance of this shift on what the new generations value in the workplace.
Super. Maybe I can shoot first. Yeah, well, first thing, I think I already mentioned this to you, Miriam. I love the link in between CX and EX, and to understanding this link, this important link that most probably not everybody understands or has seen yet. Let me start with the fact that it is amazing the amount of efforts that companies are putting into understanding customer expectations, defining different types of customers, defining what is their target market, what type of customer we want as a company. There's a lot of effort in there, developing a whole set of strategies around this to attract them and to create the experience they expect. So it is amazing how much effort we put on that part, the customer part. So, but the thing about it, that just like customers expect more, employees expect more too. And they right now don't just want a job, they want a purpose, they want balance, they want growth. And actually, not all of them want the same, just as customers, right? So we see customers that they're expecting something different, even from one same company. You were mentioning about this viral post. I actually wasn't expecting that to happen, because to me it seemed, I'm sorry to say that, but too obvious. But it seems that it wasn't. My point of what I was trying to say in that post is, and it generated some different type of comments in there. People happy about that, people not happy about the post. But it's pretty obvious that we all want some economical benefits out of our work. That's super obvious, right? So that is the basis. What I'm actually trying to say there is that there's much more, way more to understand, and that we are, even us in our companies, we are experiencing our colleagues value different things, and you can correlate those differences in different generations. We talk about baby boomers with stability, loyalty, hierarchy being elements that are important and relevant to them. We talk about Gen X, for instance, independence, work-life balance, career growth. We talk about millennials, purpose-driven work, flexibility, personal development, and then you talk also about Gen Z. It can happen that it doesn't have to be that you are one or the other. Maybe there's Gen Z people that, they value in their life things that are more related to millennial. That's okay. That's totally fine. But it's important to understand that there are different generations in the labor and the market right now that value different things and prioritize different things when thinking about work, and that changed the game. And that's super relevant for us as a company when we are thinking on how to attract them and how to engage with them, retain them, right? So just as the same thing as we do with customers. I mean, I think that the concept of one size fits all doesn't work anymore, and whoever understands that can design a better hiring and retention and engagement strategies. So that's
Yes,
for
how
start.
do you see that from, let's say, as a company that is helping other companies go through this cultural transformation? How do you see this approach to the different, as Xavi was saying, the different type of guests or or customers within the organization?
Well, it's they say the way you treat your employees will treat their customers, right? So it's really crucial and important to understand that whatever you do in the company, it will impact your bottom line. This is like number one, and as Xavi said, it is the most basic thing. I'll give you an example. This is really important also to understand. For the first time, maybe in the history, we have 5 generations in our companies, 5 generations with different expectations, different lens, see the word, different, sometimes even different values, and different attraction and retention strategies, and different even learning. The way they learn, it's different. So it's really important to understand that all this comes into the fact that it doesn't make it any easier, and the fact that the world is developing in a way where we have not only the cultural transformation that is happening, it's also coming from also the digital transformation that's happening. Like now we have the AI, and AI is kind of, it's the topic of everyone. Everyone is speaking AI, and everyone is expert now in AI suddenly. But it's happening. But you can look at it from that lens, and you see, okay, now I don't have a smooth, I would say, and one size fits all strategy. I cannot afford that anymore, for at least for the sake of my bottom line. So I'll give you an example. Actually, there's a company called Patagonia, for example. They're linking their values. So they're linking they ties their work environmental activism into paid. So they provide like paid volunteer for their company, for their employees, and that speaks a lot. For example, for the Gen Z in particular, because this is one of the things that's happening actually with Gen Z now is the volunteering, is the activism. They are high. There is a lot of hypes, and by the way, from psychologists call Gen Z, they call them PlayStation generation. And if you translate that, what does it mean? It means this is the generation who grew up learning that, okay, I can, for example, in a game, I can die and then try again. So it doesn't matter for them if they, if I don't like something, I can switch quickly. And that's a challenge for companies now.
Absolutely. And actually that really correlates and makes total sense to talk about the fact that not only Gen Z, but they're more aware of that. But today, talent, they have way more choices. So that's actually something that provides them the opportunity to say, when I'm not happy where I am, I'm not just going to stay. I'm actually going to look for something else. And when we talk about why employee experience is critical for business success, I actually was really deeply thinking about it, and I think that even in the tech industry, where most interactions are digital, like people we still seek human connections. And again, that happens with a customer, like what customers are looking for, but also what employees are looking for. And AI can definitely enhance the automation, but we as humans, we're wired for community. And I think that's what Gen Z, having spent a lot of time on screens and having been born already in this digital era, they value most these human connections. We think they don't, but actually that's what they're desperately looking for. A sense of belonging. And you know what? The other day I shared the post on LinkedIn about it, but what were they called soft skills in the past? Right now they're essential, skills like empathy, like employee engagement, like critical thinking, problem solving. I think this is what really, looking at the new generation coming into the workforce, this, or even the ones who already been years in the workforce and they want to change or look for something to keep learning, is something that will definitely set top talent apart, and especially with the AI revolution that it's happening at the moment. So many jobs will be easily replaced by AI in the upcoming years. And this is something that worries many people. When you think about this so-called soft skills that for me are career defining skills, these skills will really make the difference, because these skills will rarely be replaced by robots or by AI. So what are your takes on this topic?
Yeah, I mean, I love that you mentioned about soft skills right now. Just something came to my mind that when I think about the conversations that we are having with our customers, so we are a job board specialized in hospitality and tourism, and then we talk with many HR directors, HR managers, et cetera, and they share, of course, the challenges and what they're looking for, where they struggle the most, and they don't talk anymore about if this career, that study, or they talk about human skills, like the soft skills that you just mentioned, which they mention now as power skills, because they really want to give the importance that these type of skills have right now in our society. I couldn't agree more with what you just said. And that links to another thing, another sentence that it's being used so much, but I love it so much too, which is at the end, people make the difference. And this couldn't be more true right now. Yes, we have, it is marvelous, the moment that we're living. I think that it's, we're living something historical in terms of what's going on with AI, and that's amazing. But yet, the human touch will make the difference. So I think it's important to keep this in mind. Employee experience is not just about HR. It's a business strategy, and when employees thrive, business perform better, and there is an outcome, economical outcome. So that it's also important. Let's not be naive, and it's not just because we want to be nice. There is an actual outcome that is really positive.
Yeah,
exactly. So I think that is relevant. And then I don't want to extend too much, but then there's another element here, which I always like to mention, which is the employee value proposition. I think many companies are still trying to discover, understand what is the real employee value proposition, and that's so crucial. And if we think about how you could structure this proposition, you could imagine like a triangle kind of, where you have a base of this proposition, which is like contractual. How much money am I going to get, etc., etc. And that will make you competitive. I mean, if you are paying too low, then you're not competitive, right? But there is more in this proposition. As we go up into this triangle, there's a second layer where we find the experiential components, and that's what is going to make you different. That's what is going to differentiate you as a company to others. And on top of this proposition, on top of this triangle, we have the purpose, we have the emotional part, and that's what is gonna make us unique. And I really like to talk about this because sometimes we talk about employees, we tend to go too much to the contractual and to the competitive part, and we forget a lot about the experiential and emotional part, which is so relevant today.
Absolutely. Yes, what's your take on this?
Well, I love the fact that some people, they call it soft skills, and it's really good to open conversations with them. For me, it has been always a defining skills for employees and for leaders, even to differentiate themselves. If you think about it, I mean, you can find a lot of people with similar technical skills. What differentiates them is their actually human skills. I would call it soft skills. And when companies, they look at their learning strategies, they need to, one of the look at it like, I'm looking at it from corporate perspective. You can find like most of the learning portfolio is about actually human skills, actually how to deal, for example, with let's say how to do like conflict resolution, how to communicate in tough situation, how to negotiate, how to present, etc., etc., etc. Leadership, everything. Actually, most of the portfolio, learning portfolio for companies, for corporates at least, it's about this. It's about human skills. It's not about, like, for example, in finance, like I don't know, Excel skills or engineering skills or whatever. And this is the companies, they understand this maybe from that perspective, but in reality, it's underrated when it comes to performance. So if you want to link both, there is mismatch in most of corporates where you have the performance appraisal, it's being rated under like technical skills and technical achievements, where the how, which is the human skills, it's underrated. And this is something everyone needs to look at it from different lenses in order to combine it, right? And actually, I love the example from Accenture, who recently they created, they are using AI to personalize learning, to personalize the career path for their employees. And this is like, it's just amazing, because when you look at it, it makes sense. It makes total sense. Again, you have 5 different generations in your company, so they will go through different career paths. Another example, for example, Adobe, what they do, they change their performance appraisal from annual one to something called check-in. So check-in, they do like instant feedback, and then this instant feedback is about what you do and how you do things. And this is like really, again, and it all goes under the employee experience, and to enhance, I would say, the employee experience. And that also, it also sheds the light on the importance of human skills, to have like this, I would say, to keep improving your human skills, to keep improving your communication. Because whatever we do in our life, we do 3 things. And it's either we communicate, we negotiate, or we do, like we work. So if you think about it, like take 2 out of 3, technically it's about our human skills. Even if you are not saying anything, you are communicating, and that's really important. So the developing people from that perspective, link it to the performance, link it to the career path and career progression. It has to come within the same, I would say, it has to be within the same umbrella. It's no longer sliced. It's no longer different separate parts.
Absolutely.
And
It's
again,
no longer segregated, I think. And funny enough, I would be very interested to see in how many corporations human skills are part of the KPIs. You know, it would be very interesting to see if you find any report or any study on this, it would be very interesting to see how many corporations nowadays, they value the, let's say, like the performance of an employee based on their human skills, you know, like how good they are with their colleagues, how is their problem solving, how is their critical thinking. It would be very interesting, more than just, you know, like the financial and economical performance metrics.
Just you know, just I'll throw a number. I think 95% of the companies are not looking at this.
I bet more, even more.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I was a bit conservative. Yeah.
Now we're going to shift a bit and talk about, you know, like the challenges and opportunities to attract, engage, and retain talent. Let's go, you know, one layer deeper. As I said earlier, you know, like beings, we have a strong sense of belonging, a strong sense of purpose. We're always like, we are wired to live like in a community. So that's why we're constantly looking for. And we have the need, and this is something that we already we talked about it, Iyas, is that we're constantly looking and like to feel that we are contributing to something bigger, you know, that we have a bigger purpose, that our 9-to-5 job, that what we do contributes to something much bigger than us. I think this is something that, touching upon that top of the pyramid, that emotional component, I think that this is crucial. And again, going back to this digital era where, you know, it has unlocked so many opportunities that didn't exist before. So right now, you know, I wrote here like examples, like right now you might be working for an Australian company living in Spain, for example. So things that were 5-10 years ago were like not even like could not even be imagined. Now you can start a business or build a career online. How many creators, they're called creators, you know, like digital entrepreneurs are there in the market. On LinkedIn, for example, we see it's raising on a daily basis. Options are everywhere. And that means, you know, going back to what I said earlier, regardless of the generation, employees, they tolerate less. Basically, you know, like they have more choices, and that gives them the option to say, I'm not happy here, I don't need to tolerate this. I used, you know, like a quote the other day, which I truly believe in, and it's, employees, they don't leave companies, they leave cultures. You know, they leave cultures. It's not about the company, it's how they feel when they work in that environment. And there's so many things that can be done, but yeah, I leave the floor to you guys. How do you see it from your perspective?
Yeah, well, it's work is no longer just a place; it's an experience. So that is super clear. And I was just, so now listening to you, I was like, okay, actually, the world has changed so much lately. I guess this is always the case, but I don't know, maybe lately it has changed a little bit more than usual. And we have, you know, we just mentioned it, right? So a generational mix. We have COVID effects on society. So COVID really shaped the whole world. It made it tremble, actually. And there is, I do see effects from what happened there on how people thinks and understands their life priorities. Technology is in this too, AI. Then something that it's not, I don't think we talk enough about this, which is population flows and tensions on regards of population. I mean, fertility rates. We have certain societies, certain parts of the world where we are getting older, like more and more older. And that is so important. This is going to change dramatically the labor, the market completely. The labor market is going to be completely changed. It's already happening, but it's going to happen more and more. Europe is a super clear case, right? There are other areas where this is going to take a little bit longer, but it's something that is going to change. So therefore, there are challenges. There are many challenges at the moment, and many more that will come in, and that makes it more important and more relevant again to to have a clear strategy to tackle all these elements and to think about the employee experience. To go a little bit more into the details, there are elements that are super important. So to be slow in hiring processes. So when we are having a society that wants things fast, how can we be slow? You know, how can we have a process that it's taking like 8 weeks, 10 weeks? That doesn't make any sense anymore. Someone that is living fast or wants a quick and instant communication might definitely will not feel attached or close to a company that works this way, right? So I don't know. There are many challenges, but at the same time, there are opportunities that are being opened up. You just mentioned one. I mean, the change on the way people work from home, and the hybrid model. All this is changing the possibilities. We are seeing this in our customers. I mean, hospitality and tourism, it is, it's kind of difficult because at the end, you are working with, you're being present to work, but there are other roles within these companies that work in corporate positions, and we've seen how they are transitioning, right? So to a more close-minded culture, into a more open culture to different work models. At the end, you just said culture. Organizational culture is super relevant. We are at Turijobs, for instance, are having a podcast where we interview different HR leaders from the industry. And it's amazing how quick you can see where there is a strong understanding of what is the culture of a company or not. And how quickly you see that company really puts efforts on living by that culture and making everyone feel what the culture is from the very beginning. Very beginning means even employer branding, recruitment process, etc., etc. So challenges and opportunities for sure in the market at the moment.
Just a quick pause before I leave the stage to you. Yes, was it me, or there were some cuts with Xavi's contribution?
No, it was for me. It was clear.
And then it was me. I'm sorry. Please go ahead.
No worries. So I would like to go back to your nice phrase you say, people, they don't leave companies, they leave cultures. And one of the, in my opinion, and I know it's going to be a bit controversial, but some companies, and there's a trend actually in the market now, they're calling HR department as people and culture department. And by the way, I'm guilty as charged because my last position was people and culture director. But actually thinking deeply about it, it's this naming, it holds a big mistake in it, because in my opinion, again, because you are making the HR 100% in charge of the culture, which is not true. Creating the culture is the responsibility of every single person in the company, from the CEO to their executive C-suite, to each and every line manager, to each and every employee. This is a holistic and collective responsibility. It's not like one department responsibility. So once one department holds this responsibility, they are been held accountable for that. This is number one. Number two, I would like to tap into the opportunities that people now are having in the market, and missing opportunities, I would say, for many companies. Well, when you look at it, there is a lot of, just go to LinkedIn randomly and check posts, vacancies are there. You will see a lot of remote jobs there. It's now even now there is certain platform dedicated for remote jobs. Not only that, it's also freelancing. We can see more and more people working as a freelancers, and there's a high demand on freelancers. And in my opinion, actually, we'll see more numbers are going towards that field, because freelancing makes sense for everyone, makes sense for companies, because you cut cost, and for employees, because I can manage my time, I can manage my my location. I can manage. I can like have more control on my life. So this is one of the things that people are started like looking at when they are working in the company. That's why if they are not happy, they will leave. If they have, but it requires, of course, courage. It's not also an easy decision to say, okay, I'm going to leave my corporate world and go for freelancing or for remote jobs, etc. Now, the downside of the remote jobs is the culture within the organization. However, look at it, for example, in Slack, the company Slack. What they are doing, they are using their platform, Slack, to communicate even within their leadership team. So their leadership team, they are communicating in front of everyone. They are using their platform to communicate on everyone in order to make everyone, it creates actually two things, creates transparency and creates engagement. And this is very important for employees. Another missing opportunity I'm looking at is when you look at Xavier has tapped into the how countries and nations are becoming older and older. And when you look at it, for example, most of companies, they retire their employees at the age of 60 to 65. But now 60 and 65, when you look at it, they're still young. They can give. They're still active. So I'll give an example like my father. He's like 70 and he's still working. He wants to work. He said like, because he loves to work, he loves to do one thing. And you look at it even from once they retire, they start their own businesses or they go to coaching or training or consulting, which is again, it's an important thing. And it's amazing to see this. So when you look at it holistically, we have these different generations that are looking at different things, yet there's a lot of opportunities for each and every one of them. So now, again, back to Xavier's also point, now what's the company proposition? This is the important one. This is the important question that each and everyone should ask themselves about. And the last point I would like to mention is that, especially with millennials and Gen Z, and more of Gen Z, many companies, they are branding themselves in a certain way. They're promoting like their values or promoting like certain cultures on social media. But when it comes to reality, they are preaching different. They are not doing what they preach. And the culture is totally different than the brand or the marketing ad of it. So once they see that the difference, they will also leave. And this is companies, they need to look at it, because at the end of the day, again and again, it will hit their bottom line.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, if I may, there's something else that came to my mind now. I love all the points that Iyas mentioned. Again, back to your sentence, people don't leave companies, they leave culture. There's another sentence that came to my mind, which is like, people don't leave companies, they leave managers. And what I'm trying to say here is that there is also an opportunity in here. So the new leadership style that this transformation of the labor market, is going on, it's super important. We have an opportunity on helping our managers on leading properly, leading how it is expected by these new generations coming in, right? And I see this topic like being a super hot topic with all the companies that we talk and we trade with. There's a new leadership needed, and whoever has and develops this type of leadership within their companies will be more successful for sure.
You've said something very that actually sets the stage for me to move into one of the initiatives or opportunities that I noted that came to mind. I've been reading. I've actually read it twice. A book from the founder of Waze, which he's fallen in love with the problem, not the solution. And he touches upon something that you very loud now, Xavi, has really touched upon, which is the fact that by allowing first is that culture is something that goes across. It's like a transversal responsibility across the organization. But the thing is that, how can I say it? Not for, let me see. By allowing certain behaviors, you're risking to lose your top talent. Okay, that's in a one sentence. Now let me just go deeper.
Yep.
When you allow certain behaviors or certain performances to go, let's say, unchecked or unflagged, you are allowing those behaviors to become part of your culture. And when you do that, that is short term, but also long term heavily damaging your culture. And that's because you just remind me when you said this about the leaders. I think I absolutely agree with the fact that the employee experience is a responsibility of every single person within the organization, also colleague to colleague, not only manager to colleague, but colleague to colleague.
That's true.
And if some behaviors or some performances go unnoticed or unchecked, they definitely damage that culture that you're so hardly, putting your efforts into. So I think this is definitely something that it's an opportunity for organizations to really go, I'm not going to say a bit harder, but a bit more into detail with this check-in, kind of like performance checks that they do on a more regular basis to really flag this kind of behaviors and address them straight away before really like talent starts to be affected. Some other initiatives that I wrote actually here were, for example, something that you've both tapped in, which is the recruitment process being part of it's a reflection of your vision and your culture. And not only in the time span that it lasts, we're used to this fast-paced kind of like society, but also the communication that you have with a candidate throughout this process, the kind of feedback you give. I think, yes, you have a really good example on that, but I think this is something that from even before a candidate becomes an employee, that already shows what are your values and how is your culture driving your company. Yes, I don't know if you want to share that.
Yeah, sure. Look, the interaction with your employee, it starts from the post, from the job post, from the vacancy. This is your first interaction with your potential employee and who gonna become an employee later on. And when you look at it, the way you post, what you are writing there, it's really gonna have an impact on the overall journey. Now, one of the examples I would give you, actually, I'll give you two examples. One of them actually, with one of the companies, we started we were establishing an entity and we were like recruiting people. And the agreement was like, okay, we need to look at the candidate experience from the start till the hiring process. This is number one. This is like this one slot that we need to really focus on. Why? Because establishing a new entity in a foreign country that they don't know you as a brand, so you need to establish your brand as an employee, as an employer brand. This is number one. Number two, whoever we meet, we have the goal is if they were hired, they have amazing experience. If they were not hired, they will give you a recommendations and they will be your marketeers. They will speak very well about the company because they had really an amazing journey. What we did, first, we made sure that the hiring process from end to end, it will not go more than 15 days. 15 days from closing the post, we said, like, okay, the post will be for 2 weeks. And then once we start calling, and then, so the whole like interviews, whether case studies, anything, it has to go through within 2 weeks. We need to reply to the candidates. Each and every candidate should deserve an answer. And not only like an email answer. No, we call them like people who we interviewed. We called them and we gave them proper feedback about the interview. And it was not like a fluffy feedback, like saying, oh, it was very competitive process, and we selected the best candidate. People don't buy it up. People are smart. So we were like conservative, the way we were like constructive with the way that we gave the feedback. We said like 1, 2, 3. and that person has one ABC. So this is number one. Number two, it was short, it was fast. So people like first they meet. So what we did actually, it was interesting because the first meeting, it was with it was only two interviews process. The first one was HR and the line manager. The second interview, we mixed like 2 leaders or 2 people from other departments in order to make sure people are not only cultural fit, they're also cultural add. So, and then we gather the feedback from everyone, and then we hire based on the collective feedback. The main takeaways here is that it was fast, it was short, it was everyone has an amazing, I would say, feedback and an amazing journey. And the most importantly, we were like honest with them and open. And people could see that.
Authenticity that we were
Authenticity, yes.
about.
They could see that. And I'm telling you, like, I remember in one particular case, I was hiring someone for my team, actually. And she got like 2 offers in the same time. We were like, but first, because we were faster, and she fell in love with the process. So she chose our team. And that, for me, like when I heard this from her, it was like, that was like, yeah, this is like, I ticked all the boxes. This is amazing for me. That was okay. Our efforts haven't gone for nothing. It was tense process. It was tense process, but it was successful. The second example I'd like to give you, one of the issues I saw in the market is that, at least here in GCC, where once you post a vacancy, you have at least 500, 600, 700, sometimes thousands of candidates. Now, there's a problem with the ATS, and Xavi knows more about the ATS, but personally, I feel like currently ATS in the market it's not strong enough, because you miss a lot of good candidates because of the ATS. So now we are actually trying with them. So we're posting vacancies for them, but we made sure to interview every employee. How? Because now if you have like 1,000 employee, you'll say, okay, this is like it's madness because you need like an army behind you to interview them. But we are using AI to interview them, and the AI, the tool, it's such spectacular, actually, the interview process. And the interview is actually, it's over WhatsApp, which is really amazing, because it's a tool that everybody is using, and it's nice and easy, and everybody gets an answer. This is the most important. You interview everyone, and everyone gets an answer, and that's really, again, it shortens your process and gives you better results.
A post that really triggered this webinar and this encounter was a post from Xavi, who he posted a few weeks ago about, I think it was 15% of candidates who were offered a job in, let's say, in hospitality, which is his area of expertise. They declined the offer because they didn't feel that the values of the company were aligned with them. So how about that, Xavi?
Well, I mean, just as Iyas just said, I mean, the first touch point matters. It is important to understand that from minute 0, we need to understand what is the life cycle, what are the touch points, who will contact, what we will say, what is the purpose, what are we willing there to happen. So to have a strategy, an actual strategy, clear, well designed, so we don't miss we don't miss any opportunity in there, right? It's like candidate just as customers is just the same. As a customer, first impression matters, right? So I get into, now again, following my industry, I get into a hotel. The first contact that I will get with someone in there will be very important, like a bellboy maybe, right? So if we translate this into the application process, that's why employer branding is so important. That's why job postings are so important, and the experience happening there. I will go into the ATS topic in a second. There's so many people declining jobs. Yeah, that's right, and I believe that the major part of them could be avoided by having a clear and well-defined life cycle, so to say, right? I want to touch the ATS. It's a very good point. So ATS, applicant tracking system. Those systems became so popular, especially for larger companies, enterprises. Now it's even middle companies getting into this type of softwares and technologies. And for us, being a job board, it became a nightmare at some point too. And not just for us, but also for our users. Think about it. How about this experience? You are navigating through a job board, and all of a sudden you click into a job, then you get redirected to somewhere else where they ask you again the same questions and the same information. So it's like an awful experience, right? So we're putting, in our case, and I think this is changing slowly, but changing a lot of efforts into technology, so to say, into integrating those ATSs into our systems and making sure you see that the experience in our case for our user, it's smooth, it's clean, it's clear, there's a good communication flow, etc., etc. So avoiding the user to go again into somewhere else to apply. We send all the information with our own integration to the ATS or the final customer. And we even are integrating what we call quality signals. So companies are classifying, so to say, the applications like declined, accepted, etc., etc. And we are getting those inputs into our job board. So the candidate also gets this information, and we make sure that there is a good communication flow. So in this case, technology is going to play an amazing role. It's a good example, the AI one, the WhatsApp. So all this combination at the end is technology at your service to ensure that there is a good experience. That's what we are talking about all the time. And you talked about authenticity, which is like super important. And then I wanted to mention something here too, which is to be I think it's the correct word, Miriam. I don't know if you will correct me if I'm wrong, but to be coherent, yeah.
Yeah.
There is a lot of inconsistency.
Consistency, I would say, to be consistent, yeah, across the promise, yeah.
Exactly. It's like, okay, you promise the moon, and then, when I start the company, there is a problem there. And that's super awful. It's better to be straightforward from day one. Like, this is our offering. This is what we can offer. We are okay in this, but we are amazing in this point. Look, and then when they see that this is really what you told them, I mean, there's an even higher connection in there, and that is a super important point to keep in mind. Yeah. So,
gentlemen, we're running a bit over the Q&A space. I'm going to leave us a buffer of extra 5 minutes, but I'm really aiming to finish by 1:05. There's so many things that we still haven't covered. If we can, all of us, make contributions a bit shorter, because I think it's important to end up with the metrics, because I think this is something relevant. Before we move into the metrics, I wanted to touch upon just two things. One is the fact that I think cultures, in general, in companies, they need to embrace a bit more the failure as part of the journey, the process. The work environments need to encourage, as we said, like vulnerability, and foster spaces where employees can try things without being scrutinized or being judged or being criticized. I think this is something very important, and this definitely needs to come from the management perspective, encouraging a culture that embraces challenge and encourages just to try and propose the new ideas, definitely. And then another one that I took note here is, it's important, and this is for hospitality, we've seen it. I've been there working myself, and I've seen it with my own two eyes, but also goes across other industries, is it's very important to have standard operating procedures, SOPs and guidelines on how to follow some steps and offer some certain services and complete services. But I think it's important for cultures to leave space for each employee to really be themselves, to go out of that checklist, to go out of that SOP if needed, to really connect with that customer, to really create that emotional connection. And that's something that not many corporations and companies, they still understand that, yes, basics are important, but this room for each employee to be themselves, I think it's what we really can really take their culture to a next level. Opening the room for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, if I think about the failure part, because I take this also in our own company, failure is part of a game. And failure, it means that you're moving forward. It means that you're doing things. And for instance, me as a manager, I want my team to do things, you know, to try to give a better service, to have a better product. And also failure is a great source of learnings. I mean, I couldn't see where I am right now without failing. So I think that is really important.
Yep. So look, it's really important to look at it from like, what is your extrinsic motivation versus your intrinsic motivation, and that like will play a huge role in how to, I would say, create the culture, retain your employees, and ensure that you are attracting the right ones. So previously, like I would say maybe 10 years ago, or 10 years ago at least, companies were focusing on that, on extrinsic motivation. And now more and more, we are seeing companies are focusing on their intrinsic motivation. However, when you look at it, when you need to, as a company, is to do what you preach. And this is really important. Whatever you promise, you need to deliver. Even if you say, okay, we are not strong in that area, this is like to have like someone who's cultural add, not only cultural fit. This is very important. In the way you look at your employees, the way you look at your customers. And you tapped into the very important topic, which is the kind of personalizing your SOP. SOP is important, of course, but it has to be flexible enough in order to be personalized or to be customized for different customers or different employees.
Absolutely. Moving into our last topic of the day, how can companies measure success in candidate and employee experience? Let's say we're going to go beyond the old-fashioned engagement surveys, which is like something that most of companies probably still do. But I think, like, before I open the floor to you guys, my take on this is that employee experience is not static. It's something that is constantly evolving. What works today might not work tomorrow. And again, you know, as Xavi from the very beginning said, that you have so many internal customers to please that what might work for some of them might not work for others. So I think it's something that needs to be constantly reviewed. But how can you review something if you don't have the data? So I think data-driven retention strategies and engagement strategies will be crucial for employee success in any organization. So opening here the floor for you guys to bring any metrics that you see relevant.
Yeah, conscious about the timing too, so I'll go to the directly to the point. So I mean, if you can measure, if you don't measure, you can improve, right? Then we need to understand that there is a crucial process, which is the recruitment process, and I understand and I believe we need to measure that process to understand how well are we doing, and asking people how they felt about the recruitment process. It's a must. I mean, we are working a lot with customers with the NPS, right, the Net Promoter Score. So something similar could be applied for candidates with a candidate Net Promoter Score. And asking them about the timings, the quality of information, how they felt about the interviews, etc., etc. That could definitely give us information about areas of improvement, and measuring that is crucial. Then when a candidate becomes an employee, there is the employee net promoter score. So similar, again, asking them about certain elements. Also, you can also here put emphasis on the elements that define your culture. So and to ensure that you are being consistent, right? That there are no leaks into the system, so to say, right? In our own company, we're doing that, and it's an excellent way to take the temperature, as I say, of the team and understand. And it's a good example of what you said before, Miriam. Throughout 1 year, you see ups and downs, and you can understand then if you go deeper, you see the reasons why of these ups and downs and put measures into that. KPIs, the turnover, I mean, that's super typical, but that's also very, very relevant, understanding turnover and retention rates. It depends on the size of the team and the type of the company, but then internal mobility, like how much are we promoting people from one position to another, how many people are being promoted. So, and then the classical exit interviews, I mean, like, why are you leaving? What happened? What are the reasons that are, for the reasons that why you are leaving the company? So those could be some of the elements that you could be using KPIs to be used, I believe.
So for me, it's like on top of Xavi, what he mentioned. I agree all with him, like turnover, NTS, exit interviews, etc. One of the practices that I really in love with is something called first impression feedback, which is once the candidate enters the company, like after 1 week, we give him like an kind of tell us what you see, because it's a fresh eye. It's an excellent opportunity for you, because they are seeing things you don't see. So this is one of the practices that I really, really love. And there is another thing that we look at is the something called what is practices check. So you as an HR department or as a company, you have certain benefits, you have certain practices, like, let's say, I don't know, wellness, gym, etc., etc., etc. Now, are they utilized or not? And like whatever like benefits you have, whatever practices you are doing with your employees, ensure that they are being utilized. If they are utilized, then it's successful. If it's not, if it's slow, then change. Maybe this is not engaging. Another important also one, and I know it's not typical for many companies, the usage of the intranet. It's really important also to understand how the intranet is being used and how employees are engaged on the intranet, because this also will give you an indication.
Absolutely.
So just to be like short and summarized.
But going into something you've said, like performance, there's so many performance interviews that are done throughout like the career of someone, where usually your manager will give you feedback. But what about, my favorite here is stay interviews. Why not interviewing your team, your staff, your employees, your team members, and ask them why you work here? Why? What makes you come every morning here and not go to the company across the street? I think this is something that is simple, but goes back to that human connections, really, truly feeling for who you see every day and understanding what are their motivators. Why do they come to work for you and not for someone else? Guys, thank you so much. There's a couple of questions that I want to address. One, I think we have already covered it, but I'll bring it on screen. But one says, do you think geographic affects companies' culture? And if it is, how can we work with that to create a healthy culture? Yes, do you want to cover that, since you work in
please. Yeah, because actually, especially like in the Middle East, it's a hot region, and the political the politics here plays a huge role in the culture of like the country culture, I would say. So first, we need to understand that definitely geography impacts the culture. That's why companies need to understand where they are operating, what kind of country's culture is there, and to operate accordingly. You cannot operate in let's say in I don't know, in Middle East, and you pretend you are in the US. That doesn't work. So understanding the country's culture, the people's culture, is really crucial here. And based on that, you can create your cultures. And why I'm mentioning this, because it goes back to what I mentioned earlier about intrinsic motivation, because what motivates me intrinsically here in this region, in this country, it's totally different. It might be totally different than what intrinsically motivates Xavi or you in different countries.
Absolutely. And the thing is, keeping your core values, your core company values is important. But when you open new markets, it's important, as you said, like just to get into the country culture, just to blend that country culture within your culture and make sure that you as a company also adapt to the country culture to better, to foster and to build a stronger culture within the organization.
And one thing I would like to add also, to always have a true north. So you have the north, you have a goal, you have your values, you have your
the core values,
the company core values, and always check in. Okay, am I aligned with these core values or not?
Absolutely. Xavi, I don't know, maybe this one it might be for you. I think we have already covered it, but the question is, knowing that it's so hard to change a culture, any practical steps to approach towards making a change? I think we've shared some initiatives, we've shared some tips, but definitely something that we could go on and on and on for hours. There's so many strategies, initiatives, ideas, but I think something that we can all, the three of us, agree, and I think with that it's a wrap, is talk to your team. Ask your team, what do they want to see in the workplace? What do they want to see? What kind of, beyond having those core values very clear as a company, but go and talk to your team, ask them, what do they want? And I think that's going to give you way more information than any tools or tips we can give here on how to really foster a more inclusive and purposeful employee experience. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. Thank you all of you who have been with us throughout the entire hour and 7 minutes. And this might be the first of a kind of a series of EX sessions. I think there's so much more to uncover, but thank you so much to both of you and everyone connected.
It was a
Thank
pleasure.
you, Miriam. Thank you, Xavi.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you. Bye-bye.